Welcome, everyone. I'm Greg Schnell, the Canadian technician, here to host the Market Buzz. This show looks at weekly setups across the U.S. market. Using the tools available on stock charts, we'll look for long time frame trades. Don't forget to subscribe to my articles and Twitter feed. Lots of information there, and we try to keep updating them. Things like weekend review and Canadian market review, other specific charts. So make sure you're connected into all of that. I did want to point out one thing today also. Just the number of commentators that are at stock charts, the quality of the commentators, pretty impressive when you look at how many people produce content for stock charts. So if you enjoy the content, that's helpful. There's also more content behind the paywall. So as a basic member, you get access to John Murphy, Martin Pring, Arthur Hill. So there's some really nice benefits to becoming a member. So you might want to try that out if you haven't already. Okay, so for the agenda, June 7th, today we have a weak jobs number and the market goes up. So once again, trading the news, not really working that well. Giving the Fed reason to cut is what everybody's talking about. So the economy is getting worse, so the Fed will cut, so the market bounces. That just seems counterintuitive. But I will say, if we just look at the charts and make sure we're following what's going on, at least we'll be in the right area. So there's a lot of deflationary forces at play. Copper and lumber are both sitting on that long-term trend line that I've mentioned a couple of times already, but it's since 2002 is the trend line for copper, and I think for lumber it's a 10-year trend line. So those are really important to me, and I think if we have a global macro change, that makes it hard. Now the real question is, maybe we rally all the way into the Fed meeting, which is middle of June here, June 15th, 14th, 15th, I think. It might be the 2021, but I think it's the 14th, 15th. And then from that, we'll see what happens. So if the Fed doesn't cut, that would probably be the opposite of what today was. And so we'll continue to watch that. Now, gold continues to rally on the weakness in the global economy. So I continue to think that trade works. Shocked how many people have actually jumped onto this gold trade this time around. Even commentators on TV that have been no gold for years are starting to take interest. Watching big tech, I want to go through the stocks like Apple and Amazon. Apple, to me, looks like it wants to make a buy signal this week, and that's a big deal. Obviously, with 75 billion in buybacks, it should be on a buy signal every day. But just watching the price action to make sure. And again, what is working this week? So all of May, we were going down. This week, we've started to turn up since Tuesday. It's not like we've missed the move. The move has started, but what we want to find out is what groups are starting to move and how do we do that. So hopefully I can give you some ideas on all of that. Let's jump into the charts. First of all, let's go to the Apple and Amazon area here. And what I want to show you on this is Amazon. And what you will notice is this PPO is making a lower high here. So this is a little bit concerning with a double top. Now, if it turns and bounces up here, what does this become? It becomes a higher low and a higher low compared to this low, and it would be turning back up above zero. So if that was going to happen, you really want to buy that dip, and that's the same thing that happened here. Gave you a sell signal here, turned around and turned up well above zero. That is a beautiful place to buy. And usually when the momentum is positive, it pulls back and then turns up. That's a great place to get on board. And that's what we see over here in Apple. We've got a dip, we bounce up, and now the real question is, does it turn up from here? And it looks like it's going to. But to me, it's moving back above its 40-week moving average. It's starting to turn up here, and the full stochastic haven't quite turned up. Now, this is just candle glance. This is set up for weekly. This is the way I like my candle glance, but you can also do it smaller. But we're going to go into Apple in more depth because of this turning signal. Now, Google, this doesn't look like a turning signal. It looks like there was a high behind this PPO wording here. Another high here, another high here. And what are they getting? We got lower highs and lower lows. Doesn't seem like a place to buy the stock yet. Maybe when it's down at 1,000 because it's near support. that might be something, but so far not a buy. Microsoft pushed to new highs already this week. So this thing is just a rocket up and to the right. And again, if it was to turn up here, that's just very bullish price action. Looking at Adobe, this one, I've added it into the group because the price action is just so good. This thing is a river higher and pulled back to the 40-week moving average, bouncing off that, trying to get back above the 10-week moving average. Everything looks good. And if this is going to turn up right here, it's a nice place to get on board. I have a little bit of trouble getting on board, just with the jobs announcement being so lousy. But if all of these charts are going to start to change, let's not fight the trend and try to buy into it. So if people are going to start investing because the Fed has to do more easing, that just is a little bit counterintuitive. It says the economy sucks, but we're going to make things better. Anyway, we'll see how that plays out. But my point would be these charts are all starting to try and give us a turning signal. And again, these are the big names, right? $1 trillion market cap on 3 or 4 of these are very close to that. So quite frankly, if they're going to turn up here, let's just follow the price action. So here's Facebook. And what we see on Facebook is it was running up. It had a big pullback to the 40-week moving average and is bouncing off of that. To me, this PPO looks like it's still turning over here. Now, maybe it goes on to make that turn, but it hasn't yet. And Netflix is doing the same thing here. So it's trying to bounce off the bottom, coming up and turning up. Now, all of these charts look good. The thing that is concerning for me is the breadth so far this week was pretty weak. In general, the advanced decline line wasn't advancing, even though the price of the stocks were. So perhaps with today's price action, we'll get more of that behavior, so that would be good. Okay, so just briefly reviewing that. Now, here is a chart of Apple. This is a 60-minute chart, and I've got a couple of things going on here. So this is my PPO, and it's turned up and going higher. This is my full stochastic. Doesn't really matter. But what you see up here is a Keltner band that I've put on here, and if you're above it, it's bullish, and if you're below it, it's bearish. And you've got this black line moving average. Well, it doesn't matter what the settings are. What you're trying to do is accomplish, is it supportive or does it show resistance? And in this case, all the way down until, really Wednesday of this week, Apple finally moved above, consolidated yesterday, and today it's starting to take off. So to me, it looks like at least you've got a place to trade from. You want Apple above this area. And it's starting to show that. This is a long-term MACD histogram, and what you see is it's moving up. Now you can pick any time frame you want. What the bottom line is, when it was positive, you wanted to be in it. When it's negative, you don't. And as you can tell over here, it's almost gone positive. So it's very close to breaking out. And this is the MACD histogram for the regular 12, 26, and 9 on just showing the histogram, no MACD. And, again, when it's out of favor, you don't want to own it. And now it's coming back into favor. Now that's Apple on a 60-minute chart. And so we start to see the price action work. If we go to my daily chart, what we see here is Apple's given us a PPO buy signal on the bottom here, trying to turn up, and it's right at its 200-day moving average, 40-week moving average. So all of these are important resistance places, but again, if the market's going to break out here, I think this is a pretty important place. And, if we rally all the way into the Fed meeting, fine, whatever. Maybe we rally right through the Fed meeting. I don't know. But the point is that what was looking to me like it didn't have enough price action, now on this really bad jobs report, it's getting the price action. So try not to form your opinions too firmly, because subject to change. And now here's Apple on the weekly chart. And what we see here is this PPO trying to turn up below zero, above zero. And so if it turns up here, this is very, very bullish. And again, you want to be involved when you have something that comes down and then turns up above zero. That's a great place to get on board. This is trying to do that here. And same thing back in this period here. It was below zero, came up, came down, and then from this position right in here where it looks like it's bearish because it's rolling over and then it turns back higher. I mean, that's a pretty nice climb that it went on, and just from 113 to 150, what is that, $40 or something, that was about a 50% move in 6 months. So I don't know if Apple's setting up for a 50% move, but there's some horsepower behind this move already when you consider the size of the market cap. And just on a full stochastic, if it doesn't make it all the way into the oversold and then rallies out of there, that's a great place to get on board. Usually those are pretty good moves. And so keep watching for that kind of thing. Anyway, to me, it looks like this chart wants to set up and break out higher. So I definitely want to buy it with the PPO on the 60-minute, on the daily, and on the weekly, all starting to turn up. That's just a nice bullish setup, and that's kind of what Pring's KST does, is it has a short, intermediate, and long-term time frame. He doesn't really use a 60-minute version, but he has a daily, weekly, monthly, and when all of those are starting to turn up, that's a place to try and enter. So perhaps we're getting the buy signal on Apple that we're looking for. Okay. The second thing, let me just take a drink here. I got... sorry about that. Okay. So what I've done here, this is a very simple scan. I've posted it on Twitter multiple times, but country is US, type is stock, simple moving average has volume above 100,000, and the name does not contain bond. And the reason I put that in here this month is because a lot of things hitting new highs have a word bond in it or fund in it. And there's some sort of municipal fund, municipal bond fund, all those kind of things. So anyway, things that are breaking out to new highs, we're totaling 470 so far this week. That's just since Monday. And again, we can go back and look at what made new highs in March just by adjusting this date, or sorry, May, just by adjusting this date back to 5. And then, and so when we do that, now it should update here and show us that we're back in May. And then what that would do is show us that any stocks making a new high in May that was the highest high, so higher than 12 months ago, would break out to a new high. And that's done by this month's high is greater than last month's maximum for the last 12 months. And it closes greater than $1, and whatever, you can make that $5, you can make it whatever you want. What you want to get from this is a list of stocks that are starting to move. And so in this stock list, so I just dumped them into a scan bucket here, and there's a lot of stocks. There's over 300, but you can see here's Aberdeen Global Premier Properties Fund. And look at this. This has been like a resistance for 2 years, and this is just starting to break out here. I mean, that's a very nice place to enter. Look at the yield, 9.85. This is really nice, and you can set your stop pretty tight. I'd probably put it at the bottom of this week's candle and give it a little room to move. But there's a dividend payer of 10%, pays every month. And so you're getting almost 1% a month while you wait. And it looks like it's ready to break out to new 2-year highs and all-time highs and blah, blah, blah. So really a nice setup. And then from there, we can just go and look at, using the view all command, you can just check out what the whole list is. So this is my daily default. And again, let's say I want to look at them in weekly, because that's what we do on Market Buzz. Go down to the bottom, go over and pick up the weekly chart style. So this is my favorite. So it's got the full quote panel, so I get the dividend yield. It's got the scooter ranking in here, and this has been canceled out of the scooter ranking, and I think it's probably because it was global. AWX, this is your relative strength compared to the S&P 500, your full stochastic, and you can see it's doing very well, and it can stay up here for years. So this is just fine. It's just starting to break out, and you can see back in here it was doing the same thing, just starting to break out, and you're wondering, well, it went on a great run. So anyway, that one looks good. But the idea being, and I have this event setting. I'm not sure if all the people know how to use it, but by turning on events, that gives you this dividend indicator, this little 0.05, and you can see it's roughly middle of the month that it records the dividend. And then volume, obviously, and then my PPO indicator. So what I want to watch for on all of these stocks is I want PPOs to start turning up, or in this case, you're breaking out to new highs, especially while in positive territory. Lots of that looks good to me. So I want to take this whole chart list And I want to convert it to 5-year weekly charts. And now we can go look in the View All panel, and we'll just watch it through 10 per page. But as we go through here, here's BlackRock income breaking out to higher highs, but this scale goes up in 10-cent increments. I'm not really that keen about it, but it still pays a 6% yield. So if you're looking for that kind of thing, this is a nice way to do it. Here's the yield, 8.92 on this utility income fund, breaking out to new 2-year highs. So lots of reasons here to like this. Here's Ethereum. So if you want to trade cryptocurrencies, this is kind of one way to look at it. But a big base is built here, and this thing's very volatile. It was 25 to 50 or 45 last week, so almost a double, and gave it all back. Anyway, as you roll through this list, you can see a lot of these charts. Again, we're looking for something that has broken out to new 52-week highs, and some of these have done it a few months ago. But as they break out, what we want to watch for is new ideas. So here's an India fund breaking out to new 52-week highs, and Modi just got reelected, so perhaps that's ready to turn higher and break out. So I think that's helpful to kind of go through. But rather than, sorry about the scrolling, what I want to show you is go back to the summary view. And in summary view, what we want to do is we want to sort it by industry group and sector, and then just close that link. And then from here, you can either sort on scooter ranking, then by industry, and then by sector. And the idea being, sorry, and I'm going to hit the scroll down button. Okay, so what we've got here is these are all the different utility stocks, and we know they've been pretty strong. So here's technology, and you look at all of these software stocks, all breaking out to new highs here recently. Semiconductors, not so much. But as we, if you're looking for things that are working, like this Roku chart, that thing's just gone vertical. But looking for stuff making new highs, here's VeriSign just breaking out this week. Leidos, this one's moving up. Anyway, you get the idea. A lot of these stocks are starting to break out, and they look really good. So again, if you want to ride what's working, this is going to work. And when I'm starting to see the Tech 7 turn up, the large caps, I think maybe there's an opportunity to ride these higher. And again, all of May was pulling back, and a lot of these stocks didn't pull back at all. They just held in there, and now they're breaking out to new highs. This Cypress Semi, it's a little hard to kind of get involved in that one after it's up significantly off the breakout. But this Brooks, this one's breaking out today as we speak to new 1-year highs. So that's very nice. Shopify, that one's been a bullet to the top of the moon. Total System, this one has been really on fire. Anyway, so again, what is my scan? Let's go back and look at that. It is literally just looking for something that's hitting a new high this month after last month's max. Now, it's particularly helpful after last month was a down month for the indexes. And the reason that it's helpful is you get the divergence, you get stocks that are actually hitting new highs, even though we're only a couple of days off the lows. Remember, Monday marked the lows. But as we're starting to turn up here, they're all starting to take off. So again, I'm puzzled by the price action, but if everybody's going to start pushing money in because the Fed's going to have to act, then let's just follow that. Now, when we go look at the financial stocks, they don't look that good. Just as an example, we'll go grab whatever. Here's JP Morgan. And it's just muddling in here. So if interest rates are going to drop, that's not going to be that good for the main banks. Here's Citigroup. Same problem, not really breaking out. So the market is, but these financials aren't. So I have trouble when the financials aren't happy. Here's Wells Fargo, Bank of America. And just trying to get an idea what's happening here. They're down in the bottom right-hand corner. Here's Goldman Sachs, and nothing really going on there. Here's Morgan Stanley. So just working through these, I don't get this big bullish indication from the financials. But again, if the other stocks are going to start to rally, that would be good. Now, I also went and said, what kind of industry groups are turning up? And I just have a quick scan that I run for that. And there was two this week that were starting to give me a cross. And one was the small caps. And I know the Russell's been underperforming, so that's odd. And then the Brewers. So let's just type that in. So $DJ, $DJUSS is the small caps. And pushing higher here, up 0.75% today. And then the Brewers $DJUSDB. And that's pretty ugly chart. I'm doing my scans on weekly. The only thing that this is giving me a scan on is the full stow turning up above 20 here. But it did break support, and now it's trying to push higher. Again, I don't see anything in this chart that I want to own, but at least it was something turning up, so it's a reason to check in on it. Now, I did some other scans, and here you can do whatever, a weekly full stochastic moving below 50, moving below 20, sitting above 80, all different types of scans. And I got a whole bunch in here. And the way I work this group is I just turn them on or off. And so one of our programmers at Stock Charts set it up so that anything in color is what your scan is working on. So in this case, weekly PPO crossing above the signal line, and we can run that scan. And when we do that, we get this group, and this is pretty nice, but this is defensive, electrical or electricity, conventional electricity, utilities, telecom, residential REITs. I mean, this is a pretty defensive group, with the exception of gold mining. And I can't remember what this one is. This is, the Dow Jones Mining Index. So it was the same as, the same as the gold index. That's the reason it's breaking out. So here's industrial and office REITs. And the only thing that showed up this week that is not really defensive was heavy construction. And so the idea here is to jump into this heavy construction and start to work with it. But look at this big push over here on the right. And, perhaps it's based on infrastructure spending starting to pick up. I don't know. But if I go look at the companies in that group, the way to do that is I'll show you that from the beginning. We're going to start on the dashboard page, and down here at the bottom is reports, and we're going to go into sector summary where it says drill down into major market sectors. So we're going to click on that. We know that heavy construction is probably in the industrial group. So with that, here's heavy construction, and you can see these are all the groups in here. And again, a lot of people talking about airlines and getting involved with them. I see no reason to get involved in the airline stocks. The chart for this thing is just horrific. How do you make money with that? That is just going backwards and forwards. And if you want to trend trade it, fine, but it's really way more difficult. So here's heavy construction. And when we click on that, we're going to get a list of all the stocks in the group here. And, just looking through this, not really one I want to own. That one's not great, but not bad. And the reason I say not bad is if it broke through 19, all of a sudden we're through 6-month highs. So that would be okay. Aegon breaking down here. Sterling construction, nothing going on. So these ones look pretty bad to me. We can now rank them by scooter. So let me just go over here and click on the scooter and bring the strongest ones to the top. And obviously that helps a lot. So that's why I use the scooter ranking a lot. So rather than just seeing what was up today, let's go see, put the nice charts first and let's focus on those. So these charts are working their way higher. This one's breaking out to a new high this week. We're trying to after the highs in early May. So it looks like it's already on its way. I do like, if you look at that horizontal line at 22, it broke out above that. So that was moving above resistance, got up a little higher, pulled back, found support at that resistance, and is resuming the ride. That looks perfect. Jacobs Engineering trying to make a new 52-week high today. Nothing wrong with that idea. Here's MCOR. This one's just breaking out to a new 52-week high. This one's not quite as rosy. Sterling Construction. So you can quickly see that some of these are fading away. But again, the large cap ones are going to be more influential. Here's Fluor down here. That chart is ugly. Nothing really to like there. But again, just looking across the group, what's working. And the scooter ranking helps you do that. So hopefully there's some ideas there. So again, first scan was to just go through and see what is hitting a new high from last month. We're 4 days off the low. That's a pretty important place to look. We had two groups that were giving us full stochastic buy signals. So that's just this starting to turn up. And on a weekly chart, that's kind of one of the first things to look for. This one doesn't really impress me. Everything's below zero, so I would avoid that. And then the other type of scan that you can do again, is either full stochastic or any type of PPO crossing up, that type of signaling. And that was how we got into the heavy construction. So just throwing some ideas out there. But one thing that works really nice on this scan is you can pile a whole bunch of things together in your scan index and then just turn these off by putting a / at the front, and then turn this one on by removing them. And so this says any PPO line moving above zero, and we can run that scan and just see if anything's going to happen today. So here it's opening a new tab. So commodity, chemicals, healthcare, and the gold mining index. Gold is showing up across the board as a nice entry here. So hopefully you've been on that, because we've been on it for a while now already. But open this new link on commodity chemicals. And that chart's breaking out to new 6-month highs. That's pretty nice. And we could go again back into the sector and try to find that. Now, let's say that you've opened this chart and you don't know where the group is. Then you'd go down here to the full quote, and that turns on, it's supposed to give us data on which group that's in, but the commodity chemicals index, specifically, I would go and look in materials and see what's going on in there. So that would be how I'd find it. I'm not sure why this doesn't, it's probably not one of the Dow Jones individual group rankings. This is just a commodity chemicals index that's separate from their industry rankings. Okay, so with all of that, we've got a couple of ways to look for new highs. And again, the market seems like it wants to break out here, and I wouldn't try to argue with it. The one thing that I would say is, as we head into the meeting next week, or in a couple of weeks from the Fed, I'd be very cautious, because I think if the Fed doesn't cut, this unwinds pretty fast. But these numbers are clearly moving today. I'm a little worried about the Russell underperforming. But still, with that, this is a pretty nice chart, starting to move higher. This is a 10-minute chart showing you the base. Here's the daily view. So you're getting a PPO cross. That's pretty nice. If this downtrend broke, that's probably even more bullish. Anyway, it looks to me like things are trying to move higher. And, we had the push up a couple of days sideways for the Russell, and now resuming higher highs. So on a short-term basis, we've got an uptrend started on a daily chart where we made a high, a higher low, and now a higher high. That's the definition of an uptrend. We still have a red candle on the Elder Weekly. We'd like that to change to a blue. That would be a better buy signal. And again, the PPO rolling over at zero is pretty bearish to me. But if this is all of a sudden going to start working its way higher, that's bullish. Thanks for taking the time to join me. Bye-bye.
Market direction is the single most important thing all investors need to know. Get the advice you need by joining dozens of elite money managers and financial experts, including Steve Forbes, Paul Merriman, Tom McClellan, and Keith Fitzgerald at the Money Show Seattle June 15th and 16th. You'll hear real-time market analysis and learn which stocks, bonds, funds, and commodities you should buy and sell to build a safer, more profitable portfolio. Claim your free pass at seattlemoneyshow.com.